sports talk, and nothing excites me more than to be able to interview today the new head football coach at Noblesville High School, Jason Simmons. Welcome, Jason.
Perry, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. You know, when you talk about when people reference me as the next head football coach or the new head football coach at Noblesville High School, it's humbling. I certainly appreciate the opportunity that the school board and the superintendent, Dr. Nina Meyer, and assistant superintendent, Dr. Stefanoff, and our principal, Jeff Bryan, have given me. I'm certainly excited to get rolling. Today was day one. We're less than 24 hours in, and it's, the honeymoon period for me personally is over, but I think it'll extend a little bit longer, just for the program itself, just by human nature. But, we have some work to do. Certainly excited about where we're headed, and certainly excited about the prospects of the future.
I know, Jason, you and I've been very, very blessed to be able to have, over the last few years, many conversations with you, and your philosophy I truly love, because the game of football is just a small part of the game of life, okay, and I think that's what has to be taught to young men, because this is a lifelong journey, and the things that they're going to learn from the football field will transform into their entire life. I know at my time here at Noblesville as a high school kid, when Jim Belden came in here, and we all know now, looking back, the success he had in many, many programs, that when he started at Westfield, went to Noblesville, and then on to Carmel. And each step he was an outstanding coach and an outstanding person, and had philosophies and things. Jason, let's talk a little bit about you yourself, and I know from talking with you and knowing your philosophy a little bit, that there were many people along the line that had a huge impact on you. Let's talk a little bit about that and how we got to this day, really.
Yeah, when you think about it, and football is, I think it's the greatest sport in the world to teach life values, life lessons, for a lot of different reasons. And I'm biased. I've been a part of football now for 33 years as a player and a coach. I've just about split my time in half, and so I'm getting ready to trump those years as a coach more than a player. But for me, there were a lot of people that had a lot of influences along the way. I can still remember who my 5th and 6th grade coaches were, who my 7th and 8th grade coaches were. There's one particular person that had a huge impact on me, a gentleman at Roncalli by the name of Bob Tolley. He used to sleep at Roncalli High School when they were building it. He was just a high-energy, positive-minded, driven person that constantly challenged people to be their best. And I never really knew what that meant as an immature high school kiddo. He sat me down towards the end of my sophomore year, and he says, "Do you want to be good or not?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I think everybody wants to be good, And so, I said to him, "Yeah, I want to be good." And he says, "Then you got a lot of growing up to do." And it was kind of that, that reality, And so, I was blessed in high school to be around 3 people that that taught me a lot about work ethic, taught me a lot about core values, and taught me what it meant to be mature. And my head coach in high school was Bruce Seifried, longtime state champion. Has really done a lot of things the right way in terms of building a program, and more importantly, sustaining a program and growing young men. He was a driven person, but just the way he communicated with people and the way he was able to forge relationships speaks to his success. Steve Stern was on that staff as well in high school, highly successful head coach, and then Coach Tolley. He was my defensive line coach, and not very many guys that were smaller than me could command my attention in that high level of respect that he could. And so, I had a great experience at Roncalli. Was fortunate enough to be a part of a state championship team. Was voted a team captain for that group. But more importantly, we had a lot of fun. We competed hard every single day, in practice. And it sounds cliche-ish, but not many high school teams fought over who made tackles in practice.
Sure.
And, that was part of what we did. We were a tough physical group that took a lot of pride in who we were. from Roncalli, I went to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, and you want to talk about people that have truly blessed me. Being around Coach Randy Walker, who left Miami and went on to Northwestern, Coach Terry Hepner, who left Miami and became the head coach at Indiana University, were two people that I had great bonds with. Coach Walk got me through some probably my darkest days. Coach Hep was the same way, but they went about developing relationships and dealing with people differently. Coach Walk was a firm, hard-driving coach that tried to break you before he built you.
Sure.
And Coach Hep was a positive-minded, driven person that was constantly, driving us to be great, but he was there with us every step of the way. And, I learned a lot about leadership from those two people as I matured through college and watched those guys evolve and handle our program differently in different ways. I learned a lot from those two guys. I still stay in touch with my position coach from college. I still stay in touch with, the coach that recruited me to Miami. And then, obviously the head coach at Indiana University now, Kevin Wilson, was on that staff too. And so a lot of great people, a lot of great coaches that have blessed my career, as a player. And then when I got into coaching, really it was the only thing that fit me who I was. Coming out, I still was didn't know really what I wanted to do, got into coaching at Hamilton Heights, spent 6 years there as an assistant, and was a part of really getting that program going, for lack of a better phrase. We had a lot of success in the early 2000s, and had a lot of fun doing it. Built relationships with kids. It really started to grow. Got hired by Tom Allen at Ben Davis High School. Worked for Tom. Worked for Mike Kirshner. Both of them are great people, great examples in the coaching profession. And then, here I am. I was a head coach at Hamilton Heights for 2 years, went back to Ben Davis as an assistant athletic director, and was fortunate enough 3 years ago to come to Noblesville. And I think any successful person, any person that's advanced in a career, that has had success in a career, can tell you about the people that made a difference and has taken something from them. Since we're sitting here in Noblesville, one guy that's had a huge impact on me as a person and as a coach is Dave Land. Mm-hmm. He's a former Noblesville grad, and I've gotten to know Dave. Good person,
good family.
Great person, great family, absolutely great family. John just recently retired. Carol just recently retired. It's a shame they moved to Colorado. But they're great people. But Dave is a guy that really took me under his wing in regards to our coaches association, and he gave me a platform to grow, and that allowed me to develop some leadership as well. I really don't see myself as any different than anybody else in terms of just the experiences. It comes down to people. When you look at my philosophy as a coach or as a person, the number one thing that stands out to me is you got to respect people, and you got to respect things. If you can respect people, if you can respect the process in which things take place, and you can respect your opponent, only good things can come out of that.
Yeah, Coach, I don't think many realize that you're a big part of that Indiana High School Coaching Association, and spend a lot of time working with that group, and it does a lot of great things. You want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you do there and the leadership?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough, Dave, like I mentioned, Coach Lamb brought me into it and gave me a platform to grow. And, there's a lot of coaches in that association that are active participants. And so, I just kind of piggybacked those guys for a long time, from Ted Huber to Bob Bridge to Scott Bovenkirk to Paul Logan to Dave Land. All of those guys in some way, shape, or form helped mold me into the role that I have now. I'm fortunate enough to be the assistant executive director, working for Bob Gaddis. Dave Land is stepped down a couple years ago as the executive director, but stays heavily involved as our treasurer. And so Coach Gaddis and I do a lot in terms of identifying areas of need in our coaches association, and then redirecting our coaches and our coaching initiatives in that direction. 3 years ago, the state of football had to change. Robert Falkins from the IHSA met with us and said, hey, we've got to do something different in the summer and in the preseason. Go get it. And so I worked a lot with a lot of coaches in our association, but Darren Fisher at Whiteland, Kurt Tippman at Fort Wayne Snyder, and Coach Gaddis and myself worked on identifying areas of need in the summertime and in the preseason, and it was all geared around player safety, making the game safer for every student athlete in the state of Indiana that wanted to play football. So we made the summer uniformed. We made the preseason uniformed, and those initiatives have really cut back on the amount of contact that our student athletes are taking on. But also it made everything uniform across the board, so one team's not getting an advantage over another, and that's important. That's important when you talk about comparing apples to apples and making sure the teams across the state are on the same platform. Our Coaches Association, with the help of the IHSAA, has done that, and that's been critical for us.
That sounds good, Coach. Some of the amazing things is, with going from Heights to Ben Davis, and then back to Heights, and back to Ben Davis, and then here at Noblesville, you've been, and like you said, going through all the coaches that you have coached under and learned from. I mean, with the Coaches Association, sometimes when you have some of the coaches that have been around for years and years, you sometimes sit back and listen to the conversation because they have some great stories to tell.
It's one of my favorite things to do is to go. We have past presidents meetings with the Coaches Association, and then we also work the state finals. And I take our oldest son Brady with me to work the state finals every year. So we're downtown for 2 days. We're around nothing but football coaches in football for 2 days, and he and I get to spend the night. And he has a great experience, and he'll be the first one to tell you. He loves sitting in the suite while the game's going on and just listening to the coaches. Yeah. He loves being around Coach Land, Coach Huber, Coach Bovenkirk. Those guys they get going, start telling stories, and it's fun to sit back and listen. When you think about the history that football has in the state of Indiana, I know the movie Hoosiers is celebrating the 30th anniversary, but there's a lot of history in this state in football, and quite honestly, there's a lot of history in Noblesville. And,
absolutely.
It's something that I'm excited about. I think one of the things that I want to do is I want to be able to connect our present with the past, and I think so much of it in this digital age and the microwave society of getting instant results, sometimes we forget where we've come from a little bit because it's easier to get where we're going. And so I think that's important for our program to be able to connect with its history.
All right. Well, let's take a break right now, and we'll be back in just a few minutes, and we'll talk a little bit more to new football coach Jason Simmons.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage: Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Everyone knows it's easy to find first-run movies in the big theaters. But where can you go to watch your favorite classic movies on the big screen for the perfect night out? Why rent a flick when you can rent the entire theater? Call today to reserve our 32-seat theater for your next event, or just stop by to see what's showing this weekend. The 14 by 7 foot screen and the high quality digital surround sound system offers all the amenities you would expect from the big theaters, with a laid back atmosphere and comfortable seating of your own home. Wofford Theater at 1744 South 10th Street in Noblesville gives you the classic movies you want with a big theater experience.
Well, we're back with Coach Simmons, talking a little bit about his philosophy and a little bit about his past and some of the great coaches and great mentors that he's had over the years. But I guess the one thing about it is we're here to talk about a little bit about Noblesville football and what we might expect. Coach Simmons, I know you put together. You're only about 20 hours in the making here, or 22 hours maybe. But you put together a 30-day plan. I'm sure that you've had a meeting, or at least starting the meetings with the players.
Yeah, we actually just got done in the weight room today, day one. It was a previously scheduled lift for us. We lift on Wednesdays and Fridays after school, and so for us, we just stayed in rhythm. And I got an opportunity to meet with the 60 plus kids that were in attendance today. We had a lot of kids go to baseball after the lift, and I think having multi-sport athletes is great. But for us, we do have a call-out meeting coming up. We're either going to have it on Thursday or on Tuesday. It'll be one of those two things. We got some activities going on in AL that I want, quite honestly, I want our kids to be involved in. Sure. I think, part of the transition for me personally is having those already built relationships with our kids gives me a little bit of a head start. But I still think it's important to meet with all of them in one shot, so they understand that what the program expectations are going to be, and quite honestly, where we're going. I think that's important. That meeting will come, sooner rather than later, within the next week for sure. And then, we got to go to work on putting the coaches together. We got to work on putting the staff together, start identifying candidates. I've met a lot of great coaches over the years, stayed in touch with a lot of great people. I've had coaches reach out to me and say, hey, is there anything going on there? What do you have? And so we're going to put together the best possible staff that we can put together the number one priority for me with coaches is we want 52-week guys. We want guys that are going to be in the weight room sweating with our kids. We want guys that are in there spotting our kids, helping our kids, seeing them when they fail, patting them on the back when they're successful, and that build those genuine relationships that just transcend football, because that's what people did for me. I'm sitting here right now with the opportunity to be the next head coach at Noblesville because a lot of people believed in me. A lot of people gave me opportunity, and a lot of people were there when I failed, and a lot of people were there when I succeeded. And so, that's who I want to surround our student athletes with, because for me, it's critical.
Absolutely, and the one thing about the kids and everything, it's going to be a little bit different now. Coach, you're the head coach now rather than an assistant. You have the concerns of the complete program now, which is there's going to be some adjustments there in those kids, and there's going to be some things that are done differently. And not saying that Coach Shive didn't do a great job, because in my mind, and you and I have talked about this many times, this program is not broke, okay? You have fantastic numbers in your elementary programs, in your grinder programs, in your middle schools, and in your freshman class. So that enthusiasm and all that stuff is there. There's some things that you have to do to make your mark on this foundation, because that foundation, and you understand it completely, and you and I have a conversation. I'd like for you to tell the public a little bit about the foundation. Obviously, is that elementary football league and how they're brought up. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, when you look at the structure of where the program is right now, I think the structure is in great shape. It's there's been a lot of people that have put a lot of time into building Noblesville football to where it is right now, and for us, I think I've had people tell me when I took my previous job at Hamilton Heights and everywhere I've been, well, you got to build the program from the bottom up. Well, I think you can build the program both directions. I think you can build the program from the top down, and I do think you can build the program from the bottom up. And that's going to be a point of emphasis for me. Obviously, I have over the last 4 years, I've had a personal investment in the NEFL because our oldest son Brady's been coming through. He transitions to middle school football next year, and so for the last 4 years, I've been able to go watch practice, go be a dad, go help out whenever. But that's the heart and soul of any program, because without that growth and without that energy, then those upper grades start to suffer because of that lack of participation. But if you were to break a football program down into 9 through 12, 7 and 8, and then K through 6, the largest number of participants in any football program the largest number of participants are at the elementary level.
Right.
And so for us, that we have to put a lot of energy and a lot of effort into that elementary program, and that's not just me. It can't just be me by myself. That's got to be our staff. Our staff has to take ownership in it. And quite honestly, we want to build ownership in the coaches and in the people that are involved in that level, because we do want them to be a part of our program as a whole, and that's how you build, and that's how you generate momentum. But there's a couple of core things that have to happen there. We have to have consistency. We have to have player safety has to be first and foremost, and we have to have a fun experience for the kids, because that experience is critical. As a youth coach and as a person that's coached in the youth sports in Noblesville, there's two things. I want kids to have a great experience, one, and two, I want those kids to come back and play again.
Right.
And if they're doing those two things, then I feel like I've done the majority of my job as a coach. Obviously, the third piece to that is you want them to have a good experience, you want them to come back and play, but you want them to be better for having played for you, and that's better as a person and better as a football player. And so, we have to work hard with our NEFL in terms of making sure there's consistency and techniques being taught, schemes being run, that player safety is a priority, and there's a lot of great people that have helped get NEFL to where it is and to where it's going, and so I want to get in there and be a spoke on the wheel for them.
Yeah, and I think the one good thing, when looking at this 30-day plan, one of the things that you have down in responsibilities is to meet with the Noblesville Elementary Football League commissioners and let them know your philosophy. And I think that's one of the important things that you have to do also, not only being the head football coach, but to get you and your staff out in the community and let everybody know what Noblesville football is all about, okay? Because I think that's a very important part of this big puzzle, and once that enthusiasm comes along, I think we're going to be headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I really want our kids and our coaches to understand what it is that we've been entrusted to represent. We're representing that block end, and that block end stands for a lot. And it stands for the city of Noblesville, stands for Noblesville schools, stands for Noblesville High School, stands for Noblesville athletics. And so, we have to be stewards of all of those things when we wear that block in, because perfect example is I'm getting a workout in down in San Antonio, and I'm on the elliptical, and I get done and I get off, and the coach getting a workout in next to me, he says, "Is that Noblesville, Indiana?" It is. And he says, my brother lives in Cicero.
Really?
And it's like small world. He's coaching college football somewhere in a different part of the country. But it's a good reminder of what it is that we're representing and what that block in stands for. And so, we're going to be active. Our coaches are going to be out and about. We have coaches on staff right now that are teaching in the building that live in the community. I think that's important because they're going to take more ownership in it because it's theirs. And so we're excited about the staff that we're in the process of building. I'm certainly excited about making sure that we all understand that what it is we're representing.
Absolutely, because like I said, it's very important that we communicate, because everyone has to understand that no matter where you are, sometimes that people can relate to the people from Noblesville, or like you said, in Cicero, where your connection is. He's talking about Noblesville, and this guy says Cicero. Well, you coached 2 different stints there in Cicero and in your career and built a great program up there, and I know that there are a lot of people that respect you and your head coaching ability at at Hamilton Heights, and that's just one of those stepping stones to moving up in the coaching world. So wherever you represent, you got to be very, very cognizant of just like you said, that block-in means something.
No question.
Well, let's take another break here, and we'll come right back, and we'll go in this last session here and talk a little bit more about maybe some of the coaching philosophies and some of the things the kids are going to be going through in the next 30 days.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage: Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Everyone knows it's easy to find first-run movies in the big theaters. But where can you go to watch your favorite classic movies on the big screen for the perfect night out? Why rent a flick when you can rent the entire theater? Call today to reserve our 32-seat theater for your next event, or just stop by to see what's showing this weekend. The 14 by 7 foot screen and the high quality digital surround sound system offers all the amenities you would expect from the big theaters, with a laid back atmosphere and comfortable seating of your own home. Wofford Theater at 1744 South 10th Street in Noblesville gives you the classic movies you want with a big theater experience.
With Coach Simmons, the new football coach at Noblesville High School. I bet that's pretty funny. It seems still a little bit odd that people address you.
It is. It is. It hasn't truly sunk in. When you think about, my wife and I got a good laugh last night. Our family went to Michelangelo's after the board meeting, and we're sitting there, and she's like, "Has it sunk in?" And I said, "No way, shape, or form."
Yeah.
And no way, shape, or form has it sunk in, and it probably won't for a while. But that, in my own body clock, in my own mind, that honeymoon period's over. We got to get rolling. We got to get to work. Now, I certainly appreciate all the support that I've been given. I've gotten a ton of text messages, a ton of emails, a ton of communication via Twitter, and I'm certainly humbled by it. I guess it's a reminder that I've made an impact on the lives of people along the way, and that's truly a blessing. But for me, we got to get to work.
Yeah. Coach, let's talk a little bit about your program, because I know you kind of break it into different areas. But one of the program components is obviously the kids and teaching them leadership, but also you have that component of that parent group, because they're a very, very important part. And also that third part to community and how important it is, because that block-in represents Noblesville, okay, and in everyday life. So let's talk a little bit about those program components, I guess starting with the kids first, of what some of the things that they're going to be seeing.
We're going to start, we're going to start a classroom component for our kiddos. And really the focus of that classroom component, it's going to encompass everything that we do in our program. There's going to be a character development piece to it. We have to work on developing leadership. We have to work on, quite honestly, the football component of that is teaching critical game moments, whether it's third down, whether it's red zone, whether it's, sudden change situations. Teaching the game of football will be secondary to some of the life components. But how can we tie all of those things together to instill those core values of being a human being? How can we instill those, develop and embed them in our kiddos, so when we do hit adversity during the season, our kids have a reference point to come back to. Those are critical. When you think about football, it's a sport that I truly love and enjoy. I'm passionate about it, but for me, it's a platform to reach out to young people and to make a difference in the lives of young people. And that's what I use the platform for, And so, for us, we're going to develop those things. Creating a leadership council on our football team is important. Stressing our kids on a daily basis to execute simple tasks will get them to be able to do bigger tasks later on. Okay. And really that whole leadership council ties into our parents. I was blessed with great parents at Hamilton Heights, but it all stemmed from relationships. I was able to develop relationships with those parents and get them to trust in me that I was going to take care of their kids, and that I wanted for their kids what was best, and I was going to treat them no different than my own. I'm going to be hard on them when I needed to be, and I was going to love them up when they did something that deserved a little bit of love. But I want our parents to take ownership in our program, because it is our program, and part of that hour is theirs. It's their student athlete. They're investing time. They're investing resources. They're investing themselves, quite honestly, in our program, and so I want them to take ownership of it. With that ownership comes transparency and making sure the parents understand that we have nothing to hide and everything to gain if we're all on the same page, and that's critical. And if we can get once we get our players rolling and our parents rolling, it's going to be really easy to go embed ourselves in the community. We're certainly going to look for community service opportunities. So if people have community service opportunities for our program, they can use this to reach out to me, communicate them to us, because we want to be a part of it. We realize we're not out of the woods yet with the wintertime. And I do want our kids to be safe, but I do want our kids to get out there and get shoveling. Help. Go shovel for your neighbor. Go do something good for somebody else, because that's what life is. It's about treating people the right way. And so we're going to be out and about. We're going to be representing the end, and we're certainly excited about it.
Well, Coach Simmons, the 35 minutes have went very, very rapidly, and I appreciate you coming by in less than 24 hours, becoming the head coach at Noblesville. But I appreciate that very much. I know this is just going to be one of many conversations
Absolutely.
You and I have on the air and off the air about Noblesville football and the program and building the character of young men in Noblesville. I think this is great, and I think they made an outstanding choice in choosing you as the head football coach at Noblesville.
Well, it was a deep pool of coaches. When I know some of the coaches that were involved in the process, and it was going to be hard for them to go wrong. But again, this is a humbling opportunity that I'm certainly excited and ready to embrace, and certainly looking forward to being here more, to being around you more, and certainly being around the people of Noblesville more.
All right. Well, that concludes today's show of Noblesville Trophy Sports Talk. I'll see you next week with. I actually will not be here next week for that. I'll be out of town, but I'll be back in the next couple of weeks, and I'm sure we'll talk to many more coaches at in Noblesville and many conversations with Coach Simmons. Well, I'll see you next time.